Welcome to Preparing for AI, the AI podcast for everybody, with your hosts Jimmy Rhodes and me, Matt Cartwright. We explore the human and social impacts of AI, looking at the impact on jobs, AI and sustainability, and most importantly, the urgent need for safe development of AI, governance and alignment. Here we stand or here we fall. History won't care at all. Make the bed, light the light. Lady Mercy won't be home tonight. Welcome to Preparing for AI with me, Willie Thorne.
And me, Stephen Hendry.
I don't have anything to say about that.
Well, I've been watching Steve Hendry. I think it's called like Q Talk. It's like, it's actually not that new. It's been around for years, but it's Stephen Hendry talking to snooker players. And like, it's really weird because I remember Steve Hendry from back in the day and like, obviously just never said anything and always looked pretty sour, dour-faced Scotsman. And he's actually really likable. So it's mad.
It is. I didn't mean a criticism of you. I just meant I don't have because usually I have a comeback when you say, because you usually surprise me by saying someone completely random, but as you also said a snooker player, I just didn't have a
Oh yeah, I mean, today we had a quick chat before, didn't we? And I just mentioned Stephen Hendry.
You did.
So that's why.
Steve Hendry, you said. I thought you were talking about someone.
Is it Steve Hendry or Steve?
No, it is Stephen Hendry, but you said Steve Hendry.
Oh, I meant Stephen Hendry, yeah. Not Steve Davis.
Should we do this bit again?
No, definitely not.
Okay, well, welcome to Preparing for AI, the AI podcast for everybody. We are back with our very popular monthly news roundup. We're going to start off with what I think is the biggest story of the month. Well, it's the biggest news story of the month or the year or ever.
Decade, at least.
Yeah, but an AI slant on it. So Iran versus Israel, I'm not sure what I should call it, but I don't want to give
World War III?
Well, yeah, I didn't want to give it a particularly, depressing title. So let's just call it Iran versus Israel. And we can pretend that maybe it's a football match. But why AI is relevant here. So deep fake images. And we were listening, me and Jim were actually listening back to some previous episodes ahead of an episode we're going to put out on where we revisited our AI predictions from last year. And we were talking on one of the episodes about deep fakes and how they were kind of coming into elections. And then this, I think, is for me the first time that like deep fake images have come into the mainstream in a way that is, I mean, this is not surprising, but they're not just being used for misinformation. They're being used to completely kind of play the narrative on both sides of this. And it's led us to a place where I think already we're kind of, okay, well, now I watched the news here in China a couple of days ago and was like, I'm just approaching this with a view that anything I'm viewing here could just be bullshit.
Yeah, like I think that especially if you're talking about still images and news articles, like you might as well. Like this is where there is actually an argument for reputable news organisations. Unfortunately, I've run out of my free Reuters articles this week.
I was going to say Reuters is the one basically. Like that's the last remaining one, isn't it?
I wonder if I should cancel one of my AI subscriptions and pay I think it's $4 a month for Reuters. They're not sponsoring us because we don't get sponsored, but.
Although my friend who works for Reuters actually lives in this building.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've got a friend who works for Reuters as well.
Yeah. So what is yours more important or less important than my friend?
I don't know. It depends who your friend is.
He's the bureau chief.
Oh, no, he's less important.
Well.
Definitely. You've got a better Reuters friend.
I've got a better Reuters friend than you.
But anyway, so I think the point is, right, like how much longer can you believe anything that you see on the internet?
The answer is minus. It's already past the point where you can believe it.
I think with video, there's maybe an argument where you can still believe it. I think there's actually like a really good, I don't know whether it's an episode in, or like just a talk about how you can spot deep fakes in terms of fakes. In terms of AI fakes. So one of the things that just a little shout out to a channel that I follow, but like there's a channel called Corridor Digital, and quite a while ago now they did an episode on how you can spot AI generated images, and it was quite interesting. Like, I can't remember the whole episode, but one of the things they said is like they have this really weird contrast thing. Diffusion based images have this really weird contrast thing where like if you look across the whole image, it's almost like neutral contrast. Like every image is almost like the perfect contrast you could ever possibly get. And so they
it's like the skin, isn't it, on those kind of AI created beauty whose skin is just absolutely
perfect.
I mean even more perfect than on sort of all the video that we well, we don't get videoed on it, but all the video that people get videoed in China or images where everything looks kind of perfect. But these are like another level of perfect. Like the skin is beyond perfect.
Yeah, but I think there's also, we were talking about this earlier on, like there's a bit of a danger with, there's a load of stuff online, especially been quite a few news articles recently about how the prevalence of things like M dashes and triplets and a bunch of other stuff in like AI generated content. And I think you have to be a little bit careful with that, because some of it's a little bit blasé, where it's like, oh, it's really easy to spot all this stuff right now. But so like AI generated content, AI generated images. But I do wonder how much stuff gets past those kind of filters if you even spot it in the first place. Like, because not all models do the same thing. A lot of the stuff you see online, a lot of the news articles are purely based on ChatGPT because that's what's popular. And so I think, like, I mean, you just need to be on your guard. And when it's stuff as important as this, you know, Israel versus Iran, you know, dropping bombs on each other. What was the actual gist of the deepfake in this particular instance?
So, I mean, there's been many. So it's not just one deepfake. But the thing about this particular thing is it was video that was being used. I mean, the article's everywhere. You can pick it up on, you know, all of the kind of mainstream media outfits. But BBC's analysis apparently found that a number of videos were created using AI that boast of Iran's military capabilities, fake clips showing the aftermath of strikes on Israeli targets. 3 most viewed fake videos were found to have collectively amassed over 100 million views across multiple platforms. I'm going to say here, because I think it needs to be pointed out, you know, all of this narrative is about fake AI created video on the Iranian side. There's lots of video from the Israeli side. I think, frankly, we don't know which is true and which is not, because there is, as I always talk about, you know, a narrative here that is supporting one side. I'm sure you can find plenty of media that will talk about how the sort of Israeli accounts are also, you know, AI created or also fake. I mean, you know, this stuff already existed. You've said this quite a lot. It's not necessarily just about AI, is it?
What are you saying, Matt? Which side are you on?
I'm neutral.
Okay, just checking. Sorry, carry on.
So, yeah, I mean, there are various accounts which have seen like massive increases in the number of followers in a few days, and this is another kind of thing where, yeah, maybe that's just because this is this is in the news and people want to know about it, or maybe there are, you know, many AI created bots that are fueling the viewing figures on these accounts, then are driving the algorithm to pick up more. So, like, AI is kind of being used everywhere here. The story itself was about AI video, so I think this was the first example where the video was good enough. It was basically showing downed Israeli planes, but I'm pretty sure something similar happened with the India-Pakistan conflict recently, where both sides were claiming to have shot things down, and both sides were apparently creating or were apparently referencing videos that had shown it. So yeah, maybe this isn't actually the first one, but this is the first one where it's kind of really taken off in the mainstream. And as I say, you're getting these kind of, you know, verified images. So I'm pulling one up on the screen for Jimmy to see here that appears to be it looks to me like a bomber, I guess, that aircraft, with a load of people around it. I mean, you can kind of tell by the size of, look how big a sort of car is next to the plane.
That is a big plane.
Like,
yeah. I mean,
the plane is
chungus.
sort of, yeah, the plane is sort of the size of a city. I mean,
It
again,
looks
if
like
you look at it close up, it's obviously fake. But it, yeah,
just like,
it doesn't look.
It looks a bit like one of the Thunderbirds, like Thunderbird.
It looks
5
exactly
or
like a
something.
Thunderbirds plane. Yeah,
I don't know which
it's pretty
Thunderbird's
ridiculous.
Anyway, I saw something else on your screen there, which said like engagement farmer. It was a bit further up. I was curious as to what an engagement farmer is.
Is that a job that you think might still be available post AI?
Yeah, a new blue collar profession. So
let me just reference, because there's several layers of this story that are really interesting. So like I'm saying, I you know my feelings, Jimmy, about fact checkers and the likes of the BBC declaring what is and isn't fake.
You like them if they agree with you.
Well, I don't like any of them because I think everyone's got an agenda, unless it's my agenda, which I then obviously like.
That's what I said.
Yeah, that is exactly what you said, isn't it? But there was a lot of what they call disinformation that had been shared on X, with viewers apparently using Grok to establish whether it was true or not. But Grok was in some cases insisting that the AI videos were real. So there was one with a stream of trucks with ballistic missiles. And there were telltale signs in that, apparently, including like rocks that were just moving of their own accord. So this is an example of where, at the moment, it's obviously still, if you pay enough attention to it, there's still tells. Most people probably won't pick them up, and most people probably won't pay enough attention to them. But there are still tells. But I mean, how long is that going to be the case for? And the fact that, Grok is not able to pick it up, again, like, is Grok not able to pick it up because it has been trained to say they're real, or does Grok not pick it up because Grok is kind of, lazy? Is it just not got the technology to check it yet? There are so many kind of questions around this, but I think a lot of it doesn't matter, because we know like 90% of people will just view something, and if it confirms their biases, they're going to believe it.
Wasn't the giveaway on that particular one on your screen the fact that it says parody account and getting ready for tonight's show? Presumably they retweeted it or something.
I don't think so the name at the top is Iran Updates. I'm not sure this is the official account that people, but you're right, actually. Looking at this now, it says Iran Updates parody account, and the BBC has very proudly got a big banner on here to declare that they found this to be fake.
Nice one.
So we found
BBC.
Yet another layer of this story that is hilariously interesting.
Fantastic. BBC Verify on the case.
Yeah. So we can joke about it, but it's sort of equally hilarious and absolutely terrifying.
No, it is. No, we're laughing about it, but it's terrifying. It's definitely terrifying. So in slightly lighter news, Microsoft and OpenAI have been having a bit of a lovers' tiff over the last, recent times, basically. So OpenAI
over the last recent times. Is that your time frame on this one?
Yeah, I'll be precise.
Within the last month, because that's the criteria for the episode, but we don't know when during the month it was.
We'll go with that. Yeah.
Okay.
So OpenAI have been pushing for a little while to go for profit rather than not for profit. But apparently, Microsoft got an awful deal when they invested an insane amount of money. I think it was 10 billion or something.
You've got actually say what the deal was first before.
Yeah. So apparently they invested 10 billion for 49% of effectively the company, but although it's always been a not for profit, so it's all sort of fairly murky what that means. But they put an enormous amount of money into this not for profit company, and they got 20%. As part of that deal, they agreed 20% of OpenAI's revenues. And they also agreed, this is the most bizarre thing of all, they also agreed that if OpenAI ever discovered or ever came up with AGI, which is like the best thing.
Well, they can go back. People can go back and listen to our episode on whether we've reached AGI. But one of the problems with AGI is no one knows the definition of it. So it's a kind of bizarre thing to base a deal on anyway.
No one knows the definition of it, and I think we said this before when we heard about this long maybe over a year ago now. But effectively, what the agreement was, if OpenAI ever come up with AGI, which is undefined, as you say, then Microsoft get no part of that. And obviously, like, if they come up with AGI, like, that's the most valuable thing that's ever been invented in human history. So it was an absolutely mad deal.
So do you think at the time they thought that AGI would never get invented, or because I can only see two alternatives? They didn't think AGI was going to get invented, or they thought it was so inevitable that it was going to be invented that, OpenAI were like, we're never going to give it up because they were so sure, and Microsoft were like, well, we have to get a piece of you, so we're just willing to sacrifice it, because otherwise you can't see any reason you'd do that deal. It just seems bizarre. It's like, we will give you loads and loads of money, but the most valuable thing you can do, actually, if you do that, then you can just have all the money.
My guess is, and like, obviously wasn't there, but like, my guess is obviously, my guess is that.
Is this a guess?
Yeah. Okay. That OpenAI was just such a big deal at the time and seen as so valuable. Like
when was it?
The hype. So this was like around ChatGPT 3 was out, but there wasn't anything else out at the time. So you didn't have all this competition.
Yeah. So they were miles ahead of everyone else.
It was just OpenAI, I think, at the time. So so it must have been that it was just like, this is revolutionary. Microsoft just saw this as a huge opportunity to get ahead of everybody else, and probably agreed to some fairly unfavourable terms, really. But it's 10 billion quid as well. It's chump change to Microsoft, so why not?
True. 10 billion to them is, but well, it's not an insignificant amount of money, but I guess they're still getting, like even without AGI, they're still getting an incredible amount.
Return.
I mean, at the moment, they had that model in the background. We should probably remind people, if they're not aware, like Copilot, at the moment anyway, Copilot, Copilot it's not just a wrapper, but the model that Copilot uses is OpenAI. They are ChatGPT. And so therefore they're already, using it to make, I would imagine, quite a lot of profit. I mean, I think, although a lot of the developers don't make profit really because they're just, endlessly throwing money in R&D at producing the best models, Microsoft do have an actual business that they're using it for.
Yeah.
But 10 billion still not a small amount.
Although, funnily enough, in the same story. So, I mean, I'll just finish the story. So, like, the whole idea is that basically Microsoft and OpenAI are now falling out because OpenAI are wanting to go for profit. Microsoft have a significant stake in OpenAI, and Microsoft are rightly so saying, we want a piece of this. And so they're trying to renegotiate the deal they've got. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to negotiate up from 20% of revenue to 49% of revenue. Based on the investment they put into OpenAI. But they're also just generally unhappy with like some of the stuff that's going on. So one of the things that OpenAI have done quite recently is they invested, I think it was like 8 billion or 7 billion into Windsurf. But Windsurf is a direct competitor with Microsoft Copilot in terms of like if you're using GitHub Copilot or using Copilot to code in Visual Studio Code, things like that. And so OpenAI are like making overt moves, and Microsoft don't actually own any of that. So Microsoft don't have any of the profit share in this. So like OpenAI are in this like, they've got this really sweet deal they got out of Microsoft where Microsoft are lending them compute resource. They're actually training up their models. They've given them tons of cash. They're only giving 20% of their revenue back. And they're making like fairly anti-competitive practices back against Microsoft. And that's what Microsoft are saying. So basically Microsoft and OpenAI are both talking about suing each other now. And OpenAI have actually been talking very recently about taking Microsoft to court for allegedly engaging in anti-competitive practices. So it's basically like a bit of a fallout going on.
Good old America, eh?
Yeah.
Like when I listen to this, all of the undercutting and backstabbing and suing, and it's just, I mean, I know that like that's how the US is so ultra competitive, and that's why the US leads in so many ways. But it also just kind of. Yeah, I mean, as someone who lived in the US for a while as well, like it just that side of it just really turns me off. It's like can't anything be collaborative? Everything seems to be a battle. This was always going to end that way, though. I think. I mean, like the Microsoft. I guess just because of the AGI thing as well, like the Microsoft versus OpenAI thing, it's been going on for a long time. If you listen to other podcasts that do sort of daily, weekly news, every month something will come up about Microsoft and OpenAI, and you just wonder whether actually it just sort of makes sense for them to be together. It's just easier. But they certainly make the relationship look tough. Like it's one of those relationships where, they're forever falling out. Maybe the sex is really great between Sam Altman and it's not Bill Gates anymore, is it? He's too busy running the global cabal. So who runs it? Oh, Nutella.
Nutella, yeah.
Yeah, it's chocolate spread.
What's his name? Oh,
I don't know, but just know it's Nutella. And it was you that pointed out to me, it's not actually spelt the same as a chocolate spread, is it?
I've got Ilya.
Satya Nutella.
Satya Nutella, yeah. I've got Ilya in my head.
But it's not Nutella, is it?
It's not. No. And I can't remember what it is now, but it's not Nutella.
Anyway, he had nothing to do with the delicious hazelnut chocolate spread.
No, nothing to do with it at all, in case they want to sue us for any reason. There's a little... Sorry, there's a little...
They want to sue us for me saying he has sex with Sam Altman as well.
I don't think we've got it as a separate news story, so... I was just going to mention, like, because people might have seen this, because it's been quite mainstream news. So, the Zuck apparently is offering $100 million salaries, and
this
actually
has to be like a PR piece, right?
I don't know,
unless he's going to, or he's going to recruit one, not recruit like 50 of them.
Well, maybe not, but the sort of money they're chucking about, like they're investing, like I think there was at the same time they bought a company. I can't remember the name of the company, but they bought an AI company for 12 billion just the other week. And so if you're talking about like the best minds in AI are in these few companies, what's $100 million a year? Like, I don't know. On the one hand, it's like crazy. It's like football player type salaries, or even better than that. So that like these top AI minds are literally being treated like superstars right now. And the $100 million, as I understand it, is salary. So we're talking like compensation well over $100 million a year. Crazy business. I genuinely studied AI at university like 25 years ago. This could be me right now instead of sitting here sweating in your spare room.
We're in the studio, Jim. We're not in the studio. Actually.
Yeah.
No, we should say we do actually have a studio.
Yes,
that's your spare room.
Yeah,
but today we're in my spare room.
It's equally hot.
Yeah. Right. Well, next up is AI reducing brain activity. So this is what are you shaking your head for? It's not my opinion. This is
I know.
Okay.
But I'm just going to disagree with it.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, that's what you should do. I mean, that's how the podcast should be. So let me introduce it. So MIT have just completed the first brain scan study on, it specifically said the ChatGPT users, but I guess you could probably apply the same thing. So the results apparently are terrifying. 4 months of data reveal the cost of easy answers. So 83% of people who used ChatGPT to write couldn't remember anything they wrote just minutes later. And only 11% of people who use Google had the same experience. That's the first.
Sorry, I'll let you finish.
The brain scans told a terrifying story. Okay. Neural connections crashed from just 79 to 42, a 47% collapse. So if your laptop lost half its power, you'd throw it out. But that is exactly what's happening inside the brains of heavy ChatGPT users.
Sorry, what does that even mean? Crashed from 79 to 42?
It sounds like an AI created stat, if ever there's one, doesn't it?
It doesn't even give a unit.
So
79 what?
Okay, I'm also not sure, like, when they check the number of neural connections, like how they assess this. But anyway, let's finish. The human brain, when left to think for itself, fires on all cylinders. But in contrast, large language model assisted writing tasks leave the engine idle. Teachers call them soulless. Perfect grammar but zero personality. No depth, no nuance, just recycled structure. In the final round, ChatGPT users were forced to write alone. Their brains stayed flat. Their essays got worse. Mental muscles didn't recover. Meanwhile, those who wrote without AI finally tried ChatGPT. Their brains sparked at first and settled into a steady active rhythm. That's cognitive depth. When the bot does the thinking, your brain stops training, and when you need it most, it might not respond. Other examples are Oregon State students who used ChatGPT had to brainstorm but wrote in their own words and produced more creative work than those who didn't use AI. And in Canada, 2 large studies have shown a darker side. People were more creative with AI, but a week later without it, they performed worse than before and their penises shrunk.
Obviously, that last bit's entirely...
It true. May or may not be true.
May or may not be AI-generated nonsense. So as you actually went through these, I start to understand the context a little bit now because they're talking about use in education. And admittedly, I kind of read the headline on this one. So like going from back to front, being someone who uses AI regularly in and out of work, I both 100% agree with everything that was just said, but also 100% disagree with the fact that AI produces brain rot. So if my opening argument would be, if you don't do your homework, which is what it's talking about, right? And you use ChatGPT to do your homework, and you don't read it, and you don't absorb it, and you don't challenge it, and you don't have a conversation with ChatGPT about it, and then you submit that as your homework, then absolutely you are not going to learn anything, and you are going to have a reduction in neural connections from 70 whatever it was to 49. But that's not how you should use AI. And we've been talking about this like over and over again. Like I use AI to do administrative work quickly. It's not stuff that I don't know how to do. It's stuff that I don't want to do because it's boring and I need to get it out of the way quickly, right? That's what AI should be used for. Like if you're letting kids use AI to write their homework for them, then surprise, surprise, they're not going to learn anything. I mean, I don't know how that's a shocking statement.
I actually agree with you. Because I can't disagree with you. No, I do. I completely agree with you. I think this is a great example of where, it's not about the technology, it's about the way that you use it. And actually, if you read some of the more interesting kind of articles about this, that's what almost everybody talks about. It's a headline grabbing survey that says, look what ChatGPT does to your brain. It's very similar. I mean, actually, I think it's not quite the same. I think with short video, there's actually, it's actually shown that watching lots and lots of short videos, it actually rewires your brain and stops you from being able to concentrate. But again, it's not that the problem is video. It's the problem is just watching short videos over and over again. The example here with AI, and this for people who are trying to look and think about education in the future. Yeah, actually, I think on this podcast, maybe at some point we talked about, the use of school and needing to teach different things and teach people in a different way. And now I've sort of reversed back to thinking actually a lot of what we need to teach people is, yes, we need to teach critical thinking, but actually we also need to teach people the basic things just so that their brain is able to think and understand those things. Like you said, if you're using ChatGPT to just do things for you, and so you're not doing the work, or you're just reading something mind-numbing. But if I create using whatever, let's say I'm using Claude. Let's say I do a deep research report on something, and I read that report, like that is adding to my knowledge, right? It's also, if I'm reading a long piece, it's making me concentrate. I am creating new synapses between, in my brain. I'm learning things. I'm improving my thoughts. So AI can be used in that sense as a tool for good. If you use it to do research, if you use it to learn, if you use it to help you understand the process of learning. But yeah, of course, if you just get it to give you the answers, you're not going to gain stuff. I mean, this is a kind of headline grabber. My view on this is like, to the brain, like we had an episode where actually we talked about COVID, didn't we? I talked about how I think like the sort of brain loss that's happening through COVID. I mean, I think, that to me is real, and you can kind of see that. That is something almost unavoidable, right? You get infected, you can't kind of stop that. It's not about how you deal with it. This is about how you deal with using AI. It's completely different.
Yeah. I mean, the COVID thing's like presumably a proven mechanism.
It's a biological mechanism. Yeah, it's neuroinflammation and it's reduction of.
We've talked about this before, cortex. But I thought I'd pull it up from, of course, the font of all truth Reddit. But I've pulled up an actual. It looks like a picture of an actual news article from 1988, where teachers were out, elementary school teachers were out picketing, so with banners, protesting against calculator use. Math teachers,
the Luddites all over again.
Yeah, math teachers protest against calculator use in grade school, because if teachers feel that if students use calculators too early, they won't learn math concepts. Now, how untrue and utter nonsense was that? Like, okay, do people routinely add numbers up when you've got a calculator that can do it quicker? No. But has that got anything to do with learning the concepts of maths and how maths works and developing an understanding of maths? Also, no. And so I think fundamentally for me, and this is not straightforward, but what needs to happen is like education needs to change. If everyone's using ChatGPT now to submit their coursework, then you need to find other ways of testing that.
Yeah, I've quite often used the example of the sort of master's degree that I was doing and how I think in the future people won't study. So I'm going to use a different example. I won't use that one again. But I write a sort of alternative health blog in China. I do it in Chinese. Now, when I'm writing that, I use AI to help me with it. If I wrote that article completely myself from scratch, I think there would be a degree of kind of memory forming that would be maybe better than using AI to help me, but I wouldn't have as high quality content in there. If I just let AI write something and then just sent it out, there would be zero learning. But I think what I'm doing, which is writing the kind of skeleton on the outside and then saying, can you give me a bit of information around this and reference some articles for me? And then I'm tweaking that and reading it and putting it in. To me, that is like, as I write these articles, and part of the reason for doing it, like part of the reason was like people wanting me to share some of the stuff that I understand with them and kind of help people. But part of it for me is also like, it's developing my knowledge, because every time I write an article, I kind of do research. So I think that's a really good example of how like, it depends on how you use AI. There was actually an example as well. I think this is really interesting. I just asked for a kind of summary of this article from Claude, and because it knows because it's got memory now, and it gave a functional medicine angle to this, which is like a really interesting thing where it's talking about neuroplasticity and opportunity. So the brain's lifelong neuroplasticity means we can strengthen specific circuits through targeted interventions, from meditation, cognitive training to neurostimulation. So if people don't understand, that is literally how you rewire your brain. It's the way that cognitive behavior therapy and stuff works. The concern shouldn't be that AI changes our brains, but whether we're directing that change intentionally. So, we have kind of control of using AI to help us rewire our brains in a better way. We also have a way of letting our brains become lazy. And that is for us to decide.
Yeah, I agree. And something that, I mean, just to finish up on this, like something that a lot of people have said, which like I'm coming around to now, is that, and this is the problem with education. Like it's a problem with a lot of stuff, right? It's very slow moving, and the pace of AI is so fast. But I think there's an argument now for like actually having, like genuinely actually creating a society of, for want of a better word, like generalists. Like you can now delve into any subject and be a bit of an expert on anything. And I find that fascinating. I find it fascinating that you can, like, I could go and write a blog post on something, and okay, you need having a bit of knowledge is good, but you can fact check stuff, you can research stuff so quickly now, so efficiently. And so you can dip in and out of stuff, like, and so the opportunity for learning for me is intensified. I think the problem with the article you referred to is their problem is how to test people, and how to encourage people how to learn, not how AI can actually help you learn. And
it's also, it's a bit like saying like, oh, we got some people who are really good at football, and we got one of them to just sit there and do nothing, and we got some others to play football, and the ones who sat there got worse at football. It's like, well, they didn't get worse at football because of, like, they got worse at football because they weren't doing anything, not because it was making them worse. What was making them worse is the just sitting there doing nothing. It's the same with AI. Is like, in this example, I'm not saying there isn't a ways that AI is having a negative effect, but in this example, it's using AI to do stuff for you. Of course, that means you're not stimulating your brain. I mean, that is one of the reasons why, a lot of people, when they retire and they don't have anything to do, decline very rapidly, because they don't have that kind of stimulation. Whereas people who retire and do lots of stuff and you keep their memory going, they maintain a different level. Yeah.
And so the problem really is, like, how do you motivate kids? Because if you're talking about learning, you're talking about kids, right? And so kids will take the lazy option, take the easy way out. Not all of them, but quite a lot of them. I would have done when I was a kid. And so how do you then find a better way to test and stretch and motivate kids to use AI to, like, develop themselves and learn and become interested in subjects, rather than just like, how do I pass my test?
And I'm going sort of super optimistic on this, which is quite interesting. But like, this is a way in which, like, this idea of kind of personalized learning is, okay, you could kind of do this with the internet. So I'm not saying this is completely new, but with AI, it takes it to another level, that if you're really, really interested in one particular thing, like you said, as a kid, you can sit home and use AI to help make you an expert in a particular area. You don't have to waste your time around things that you don't want to learn. Now, it's a bit different in school or whatever the system, like, you have to be taught certain things and you won't get a complete choice in it. But in your spare time, you can really kind of focus in on the things that you want to be able to do.
Absolutely.
And AI can help you in that way. But this is not to say it's not. There aren't ways in which it's destroying people's intellect, and it can, but it's about the person, it's about the individual. It's not about AI as such.
But and applied the right way, you can have a class of 31 kids. I don't know why I picked 31, but you can have a class of 31 kids, and like the top 5% of those kids who normally would be not very intellectually challenged because they're like, the class is going along at the average middle pace, they can be like, you can have them on GPT, like learning extra stuff, like picking extra stuff up. And the kids that are struggling at the opposite end of the spectrum, they can be getting extra support from
to help
like
them
this.
Understand the bits they don't get.
I don't, like, if applied in the right way, I just don't see how this is not a win-win situation. I appreciate that's very idealistic and not straightforward, but this article's nonsense.
I think we should move on before we jump off this optimistic cliff that we're currently on.
I know, I'm very excited.
Right, crashing back down to earth off that optimistic cliff that we were perched on the edge of. Jimmy, you're going to talk about Disney and Universal suing. I've put suing AI. I don't think they're suing AI in general. I think they must be suing a particular.
Well, it's company. We've had two articles about suing. So yeah, very US centric. We should do some UK stuff sometime. But yeah,
there isn't any UK stuff. Oh, actually, no. I'm going to come in a minute with a UK thing. So
okay, I look forward to it. So this is about. I mean, this is I don't know. Like I have really mixed feelings about this, but basically, this is about Disney and Universal suing Midjourney, the platform. Because
you just say who Midjourney are.
Oh no, I should explain that. Yeah, so Midjourney is a really high quality image generation service using diffusion, stable diffusion type image generation. It's been around for quite a long time. It's open source actually, or it's based on open source technology. But Midjourney have monetized it, and what they do is you can go on Discord and you can generate images, and they're really, really high quality. Unfortunately for them, a lot of people have been using their platform naughty to generate pictures of things like Yoda and Darth Vader and all sorts of sordid things that they might get up to if like you weren't in the Star Wars universe. I think they've also been generating stuff from Frozen, basically anything that's in the Disney franchise, which is basically anything that's a cartoon these days. And most comic books. People have been making their own fun versions on Midjourney, and Disney feel horrendously offended by this. Did Disney own Universal, or is it like Disney and Universal are ganging up?
No, I think they're separate because Disney and Universal, like Universal Studios and Disneyland, are the two big things, aren't they? Okay. So I think they're literally the opposite.
They're both,
but they're not literally the opposite. The opposite of Disney is. I don't know what the opposite of Disney is.
It's Shakespeare.
What's the opposite of Universal? Un-Universal.
No, Un-Universal, yeah. So they're both looking to sue Midjourney, and this is a really big deal. Like on the one hand, I'm like, well, I don't see how they've got a cat in hell's chance of winning, frankly, because in the same way that YouTube and Facebook and all these other companies, big tech companies, have managed to make the argument that they're a platform, and so they're not responsible for what people do on their platform. So I see Midjourney as the same thing. Now, that's not to say that they will or won't win, but I think it will be a very, very sad day if Disney and Midjourney Universal do win.
You hate copyright, don't you, Jimmy?
I hate copyright. Well, do you know why I hate copyright? Because Disney have abused it massively. They've extended copyright, and copyright used to be a thing where it was like you got 20 years, a bit like a patent. You got 20 years of free reign. You could have Mickey Mouse, you could have whatever. And then after that, people can iterate on it and people can create new ideas based on it. And I think that is fundamental to like what's the word, like creativity and to inspiration and all the rest of it. And if you just have to look at the way cinema's gone these days to be like, well, yeah,
I don't think many people would disagree with you on
Mission
this.
Impossible 12, that never used to be a thing, and I don't know, Marvel Avengers 53.
Well, there's a film that's not a Marvel film. It's like, oh, it's a new film and it's not Marvel. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So like the copyright law has a place, but it's gone too far. And in my opinion, it stifles creativity. And I think this is just the same thing, right? Most of the stuff that people are creating on Midjourney is not to monetize. Some of it they put on Instagram and stuff like that and have a bit of fun with it. But I think the vast majority is just like, I want to create a, image of Darth Vader as if they were, Mother Teresa or whatever.
It's not. I like on the kind of main point, I do agree with you. Where I do disagree, I think there is like when you're saying they've not got a kind of cat in hell's chance of winning. I'm not sure, just because I think if you let's say this went up to a really sort of senior, I mean it's not going to go to Supreme Court, but let's say it goes up to a really senior court. I just wonder whether this is an example of where like law setters could use this as a kind of example of there is enough concern around AI and enough concern about like stifling creativity that this becomes kind of just because it happens to be the right time and the right place, it becomes the example where they use it to kind of set a law because they're like, oh yeah, exactly, a precedent, because it's like, well, we can't just let everything be okay for AI to do. And I don't think that means, it doesn't mean prosecuting, the teenager who's been creating something at home, but it is about sort of prosecuting, because with social media, we made that mistake. And I think both of us view that with a lot of the problems with AI is we're in danger of making all the same mistakes again. But actually, the more awareness there is of that, and like, we can't make this again, that maybe some of these things have to happen just as a way to kind of, it's maybe this is not the best example. Maybe this is not where it should happen, but it just is the right time, the right place. And this becomes the one where someone in a position of authority and leadership in kind of lawmakers decides this is the one where they're going to actually rule in favor. I don't know. I don't think that necessarily happens, but I think that is the reason why I think this actually could be even a bigger deal than I think we think at the moment. Like this just seems to be a sort of example of somebody suing somebody, but maybe this is the one that actually creates a precedent.
So, and to be fair, like we both use Suno, and Suno is always from the beginning. I don't know what Midjourney do, but Suno's always been very careful.
You can't
to be
put
like,
any artist names, can you?
Yeah, if you say make me a song in the style of the Killers, it'll be like, sorry, but I can't help you with that.
Yeah.
Like I think it'll make you a song in the style of the Killers, but you have to
type,
come up with like,
make me a song in like between 2005 and 2011 style American Las Vegas glam rock.
Exactly.
Like,
you have to come up with a really good prompt that describes exactly what the Killers are and pins it down, and then it'll probably generate you something that's kind of similar. But they're careful to just avoid that clear distinction. Whereas I think with Midjourney, if you say, make me an image of Darth Vader, it'll oblige. So maybe that's where the difference is. And Midjourney are charging for it as well. So maybe that's where it is. There's a couple of things here. There's a couple of points I want to make. So even if Midjourney lose, and even if they get sued for this, what you're going to end up with is a situation where you can't do this with any of the mainstream AIs, but you'll be able to get an open source stable diffusion model.
I was about to say that, yeah. I know where you're going with this.
It's going to be more difficult and more niche, and so less people will be doing it, and so do they care? Possibly not, in the same way they've sued the Pirate Bay out of existence, so, do they care if a few people are copyrighting stuff anymore? So I sort of see that side of it as well, but you're not going to stop this.
I was going to say the same with Suno and music generation is with Suno, they'll have this, but it won't be long until you get an open source, music generation, large language model you can just stick on your laptop, your iPad, whatever, and just create your own music. And actually, once it's open source, how can anyone do anything? I want to just give an example. I said I'd have a UK example. So I've put down here Elton John versus the UK government over AI copyright laws. So I just remembered this when you were talking about suing. I just thought, didn't Elton John sue someone? Well, he hasn't sued anybody, but he said he wants to. He's accused the British government of committing theft by proposing that tech firms could train AI models on the UK's music and creative output without guaranteeing proper compensation. So he has slammed AI copyright plan as criminal theft of creative work. And called the government absolute losers, and said he felt incredibly betrayed over the proposed copyright changes. I don't know where this has gone, or if it's gone anywhere, but
do we need to start saying allegedly in anything that we do? I don't know.
Well, no, Elton John said it.
Okay.
We didn't say it happened, and he didn't allegedly say it. He definitely said it.
Oh, okay, fair enough. If
you said it, we'd have to say it allegedly. Okay. But as we're quoting what Elton John has said, we don't need to say allegedly.
That's all right then. I'm just checking. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I like, this is where we've talked about it before. Like, I don't think that like any of the AI generated music will have really the remotest make the remotest difference on like genuinely artistic stuff in a way. Like I think what it will make a difference to is the sort of low hanging fruit. So stuff that's I guess like dance music and things like that. Are people still going to listen to handcrafted dance music? I think they'll still listen to bands, and I think that's not.
I was making dance music in 1999, and it wasn't handcrafted then. It was using a piece of software where I dragged things into different places. Yeah, it's not now. I just don't need to drag things anymore. And this is not to undermine EDM, because we're both big fans of it. That's what we grew up with, but. Like the process of creating it is not, there's a creative process behind it, but actually it's not like playing an instrument. It's already been something where you were layering together samples, which frankly were like most of the time samples taken from something else. Right.
Yeah. But there's a skill, there's a
skill involved in it. But what I'm saying is like the process of creating dance music, like you're just automating that process with with music that's played on instruments, you're literally taking away that playing of the instrument.
Yeah. I mean, I guess where I was trying to go with this is I feel like there's a bit more of a threat to the creative EDM composer,
Sure,
than there is to like bands, because bands, like, people are still going to go and see bands live. If anything, this might kind of even make that more
we were talking about that
special.
recently, that we think it will perhaps make live music even, and any place that you can see humans performing creatively, to make it even more, more like special, because it's a more of an experience.
Yeah, totally. So, what was the point anyway that we were talking about?
Elton John doesn't like what the UK government are doing, and he's made nasty comments at them.
He's just stuck in the past, isn't he? Okay, I'm going to reluctantly talk about this because I think this has happened about 10 times in the last 12 months, but apparently Sam Altman's declared that the AI singularity has begun. We're at the start of the gentle singularity. This is Sam Altman speaking, obviously. Allegedly. We are past the event horizon. The takeoff has started, and humanity is close to building digital superintelligence. I mean, what a load of waffle. Like, I'll be honest, like, I don't know where you got this from and why you're making me read it. But he said this like half a dozen times over the last 6 months, hasn't he?
Well,
Sam
I mean,
Altman. Is this not what he does? Like, spins
yeah.
nonsense so that OpenAI can continue to make
which
money.
Which is why I've said many times in here, I think he's a devil. Because he might not be a devil, he might just be an AI.
More on that next week.
Allegedly he's the devil. He may or may not be, but allegedly is. No, but exactly. I mean, it's just, but this is like why I hate him so much, is it's this just complete lack of authenticity, this lack of any sort of morals. You know, he talks about how, how important safety is, and he talks about the risks, but then he does absolutely fuck all about it. Yeah, you've got these examples of him talking about, humanity's close to building digital superintelligence. What's close mean? When? Like, you haven't even claimed AGI yet. We're past the event horizon. The takeoff has started. Is this a soft takeoff? The hard takeoff?
He's edging us.
So, like, a little bit more detail on it. He predicts that 2025 has seen agents doing real cognitive work. 2026 will see systems figuring out novel insights, and 2027 may bring robots capable of real-world tasks. I don't disagree with any of those things. None of those things to me suggest that we're in the gentle singularity. No. None of them suggest that we're past the event horizon or that the hard takeoff has started. It's just, and it's not bizarre weird. It's just nonsense. Like, it's not even nonsense. It's just pointless. It's just meaningless. It's just a load of words.
They haven't even knocked out GPT-5 yet.
Well, maybe that's why I just keep distracting us from.
They're still on decimal points.
GPT-5.
Yeah.
I've got one other just little nugget to finish this off, which is a China related one. So I don't know how much you know about this Chinese startup Minimax. No?
Nope. I've heard of DeepSeek.
So Minimax, like,
sounds like the opposite.
It does. Well, Minimax is really cool. Like, I don't know who set them up. I mean, like, it's never that transparent anyway, but they're supposed to be a startup. Like, they, again, like DeepSeek, although DeepSeek didn't come from nothing. Like, the Well brothers were like actually around for quite a while, but Minimax, I heard about this 2 or 3 months ago. I heard about them. I think maybe Christy Loke actually mentioned them. So they're not completely unknown, but they've debuted this M1 model, which they say matches the leading Western models. I'm sure not the very, very best frontier, but, the likes of kind of Llama, maybe some of maybe sort of like, I don't know, GPT 4.5, but it cost apparently $500,000 to train. So 200 times less than GPT 4.
Yeah.
If that's true, it's amazing.
Times? What? So like they're saying GPT 4 was 10 million or 100 million? 100 million.
100 million.
That's expensive.
It's pretty amazing. Anyway, I mean, it's one of those things. It's kind of irrelevant to most people, but like this driving down of the cost of models, it's the thing that we saw with DeepSeek in China. It is the thing that, like, China does seem to excel at these. And I was speaking at an event on AI recently, and I was talking to a few entrepreneurs that were there and kind of investors in AI, and they were all talking about like the reduction in costs and how this was kind of driving stuff down. And every single one had been using other models, and every single one had switched to DeepSeek. in the last 3 or 4 months, and they were all like using DeepSeek has just made it possible because of the cost. So, although we think of this as not this kind of interesting and amazing story, actually in terms of real world impact and how this is kind of, for small startups and businesses to be able to like be powered by AI, this stuff is massively important. You also had at MWC Shanghai, you had Huawei outlining its new strategy for an intelligent world powered by AI. So that's got 5.5G. I think we'll talk about 5G in the next episode. Green infrastructure and basically their chips, which, as we've mentioned, I think before, driven by kind of US chip restrictions. Huawei, which, let's be honest, Huawei is essentially the Chinese, the tech arm of the Chinese state, has developed these like incredible kind of chips that are, it's not so much that they're better. They're not as better than NVIDIA's chips. They are more efficient, but it's just, they're not. Burger King had the best chips, didn't they? They didn't have the crispy ones.
If they're fresh, McDonald's chips, definitely, any day of the week.
Actually, fries.
Fries, sorry.
Most of our listeners are American.
But
yeah, they've got, anyway, Huawei have got these microchips, which are
even smaller.
Really good. Should we leave it there?
No. So
okay.
I don't think we should leave it there. Like, watch out for China. Like, China.
Jimmy, you're very passionate today.
No, they've been squeezed hard, haven't they? And what they're doing is knocking out models that are like,
squeezed hard, knocking out. You are getting very passionate.
I am. They're producing models.
A little bit saucy at the end of today's episode.
They're producing like something like 200 times less.
It's incredible.
Like more efficient, effectively.
Than like GPT-4, which we're talking about a model. What GPT-4 is like 18 months ago now.
Yeah, totally. And so I think this is the weird thing is like China has become a real innovator, and not just in the AI space in general. And things like this kind of pushed them harder in that direction. And they have become a real innovator in a whole bunch of stuff. And so, I think the West does need to sort of really keep an eye on it. But not in the way that it's like a threat necessarily, because a lot of this stuff ends up being open source, and then the West can benefit from it as well. But it's reducing the infrastructure requirements and cost significantly, and so it's really disrupting things in terms of like the idea. I think Trump was talking about $5 trillion of investment in AI and tech. Not that long ago at the start of his presidency. Stuff like this undermines that massively. Yeah. Massively.
I just want to finish on something actually about China. Now, I hadn't planned to say this, but on the back of what you just said, I think, we've said a number of times on this podcast, like, when we sort of revealed that we are both based in China, we're not here to kind of, it's not for us to kind of have this sort of Chinese propaganda narrative, or to tell you about how everything is great in China, and, to take a position on the kind of US China. But what I think we do want to do is to explain what it's actually like here, because the way that China is perceived and portrayed in Western media,
it's dismissed.
It's not the fact that it's portrayed as being good or bad, and it's not that kind of like the Communist Party, etc., etc. It's the way that they still haven't acknowledged the way in which China innovates. Like, China copied stuff, like that's absolutely, we know that happened, and we know that it probably continues to happen. But the innovation that happens here, like for me, there's more innovation here than anywhere else. Like, there's more innovation than there is in China. Like, they're trying to do things different ways. And if you even look at the kind of government level, what they do is they will choose like a province, or they will choose an industry, and then they will encourage this like insane level of competition between provinces, or between cities, or between, these kind of SOEs, so that one of them emerges victorious. And this is when we're talking earlier about the kind of the way that in the US it's all about kind of suing each other. In China, they don't sue each other. So you don't have that kind of complexity. It's just literally like, it's like a kind of fight. You just throw everyone in the ring together, and one emerges as a superior one, and that's your kind of superhuman. That's the way in which that kind of innovation takes place. These tech companies, the way that they compete, it's like, it's merciless. Like the hours that people work, and the way that they're trying to like battle the pressure that they're under, the kind of adversity that they face. Like, whether you like China or not is irrelevant. It's just that it's not that China is just this kind of, the bad guy that's just kind of copying the US and trying to keep up with it. It's like, it's doing things in its own way. There's equally, if not often much more innovative. And like we said, like people need to acknowledge that whether they like it or not, because that's just the truth. And they are, the relationship China has with other countries, like they're going to roll this stuff out because one, it's cheaper. So like, for example, DeepSeek we're talking about, it will be much easier and cheaper for a lot of businesses and a lot of countries to use, but also, they will encourage it and they will kind of support and maybe even subsidize its use because it helps them to build those connections and it helps them to grow the kind of power of the Chinese state.
Yeah, exactly. And whether you think it's dangerous or not, or whether you just think it's interesting, I think there needs to be more awareness about it, which is what you're talking about.
Right. So let's wrap up. We've finally managed to do an episode in under an hour. So should we make a 6-minute song so that people still have to listen for an hour?
Well, I think I can knock out, 5 minutes and 5 seconds using the new Suno.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for listening. And we haven't said this for a while, but we're on another recruitment campaign for people to listen to the podcast. So if you enjoyed this, then send it on to 3 friends. If you didn't enjoy it, send it on to 3 people you hate. But get 3 people to listen.
I'd be amazed if you got this far. But yeah, incredible.
They say the robot's gonna take our brains away, but I tell you now it's not that way. It's not the machine that makes you slow, it's how you choose to let your thinking go. The AI there to help you learn and grow, but if you sit back, let your mind flow low. Don't blame the tool for what you don't do. The laziness inside is up to you. Don't let your mind go idle, idle. Don't let your thoughts get stuck in the middle. AI can lift you up so high, but only if you're willing to try. Don't let your mind go idle, idle. Use the tool to solve the riddle. Some people fear the thinking machine, say it's the worst thing they've ever seen. But knowledge flowing like a river wide can make you stronger if you don't hide. The computer calculate the human dream. Together we can build a better scene. Don't let the helper make you weak. Use it to find what you truly seek. Don't let your mind go idle, idle. Don't let your thoughts get stuck in the middle. You up so high, but only if you're willing to try. Don't let your mind go idle, idle. Use the tool to solve the riddle. Exercise your brain like your body's strong. Keep your neurons firing all day long. The artificial mind can show the way, but your natural wisdom's here to stay. Ask the questions, dig deep down. Don't let technology make you frown. Partnership is the key, you see. Human plus machine, that's how we're free. Don't let your mind go idle, idle. Don't let your thoughts get stuck in the middle. I can lift you up so high, but only if you're willing to try. Don't let your mind go idle, idle. Keep your consciousness vital, vital. Exercise your brain like your body's strong. Keep your neurons firing all day long. The artificial mind can show the way, but your natural wisdom wisdom's here to stay. Ask the questions, dig deep down. Don't let technology make you frown. Partnership is the key, you see. Human plus machine, that's how we're free. Don't let your mind go.